Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Jen Brierly from Stamping with Jen, and thanks for joining me today. And today we are going to have a look at making this lovely card using the Beauty of the Earth stamp set and suite. A little coordinating envelope there. I really like this card because it's so pretty and so easy to make. The designer paper makes it really simple to make beautiful cards. So just set that there. To make this card, get all my bits and pieces here. We're going to need an envelope. We will need basic white cardstock, 8.5 by 5.5, folded in half. We're going to use some old olive, that's 5.25 inches by 4. We've got a piece of the designer series paper that is 5 inches by 3.75 inches. And then we've got, excuse me, there we are, 3 other pieces of basic white. So we've got one that's 1.75 inches by 3.5 inches. We've got one that is 1.75 inches by 2 inches. And then one that's 1 inch by 1.75 inches. And then the last piece is a little piece of old olive, and that is 1 inch by 1.75 inches as well. And then you are also going to need a couple pieces of the Bumblebee gingham ribbon. There's one piece that's 6 inches and one piece that's 4 inches, and we're going to tie those on there. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to take our card base and our piece of old olive, and we're going to just attach this to the card base with some Stampin' Seal. Just run that around the outside here, all around the edge there, and this goes down on the card base like so. Okay, and then our designer paper, we actually want to take the 6-inch piece of the ribbon, and we're going to wrap that around this designer paper before we put it down. So I'm just going to run a little bit of adhesive on one section of both sides. So I've just put a bit of adhesive here and here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ribbon and just kind of get it sort of centered, and then I'm going to wrap one end around and wrap the other end around so that that is on that adhesive that I put on the back. Okay, and adjust it slightly so it's at least close to straight. There we go. And now I can put adhesive around the rest of this, and you can go ahead. I'm just actually running the adhesive right over top of that bit of ribbon that I put on. It's going to help hold it in place. And run the adhesive around the back side of that designer paper. Make sure we got our card the right way up. There we are. And we will put this onto that old olive layer. Okay. So there, that is ready to go for the moment. We're just going to set that aside while we work on a couple other things. So I'm going to just move that off screen for a moment. So now we need our stamp set. And if you haven't seen it before, this is the Beauty of Friendship stamp set that's part of this suite. And we're going to need the Beautiful Trees dies. And that's all the dies that are in that set. And for this card, you're going to need this rectangle, and you're going to need this tree leaves outline, and you're going to need this tree trunk outline. I've already pre-cut my pieces, so I'm not going to do that today, but that's the ones you would need to make this card yourself. So what I'm going to start with is building this tree. So I'm going to start with the trunk, and for that, I'm going to need this tree trunk stamp. Oh, sorry, that was kind of noisy. And I'm just going to place that on my block, make sure that trunk is relatively straight. And I'm going to use some cinnamon cider ink for that. That's one of the colors that coordinates with this set of paper. So we will stamp or ink that stamp up rather. Make sure that's all good to go. When I'm doing slightly longer ones like this, I tend to like to turn it sideways because then I can get a better idea of whether or not it's centered. So we'll stamp that down. There we are. I'm going to clean that stamp off and close that ink pad. And then we're going to use this larger of the two remaining pieces of white, and we're going to do the top of the tree. So you'll notice in here that for both the evergreen tree and the leafy tree, there's one stamp that's kind of more full, and this is kind of an outline. So how I like to do it is use this full one in the lighter color and then do a darker color in the outline. So that's what we're going to start with. This one here, and get my block. And I did Bumblebee and Old Olive. So I'm going to start with my Bumblebee ink and get the ink on the stamp here. There. And stamp that one on there. Okay, and you'll see that even just doing this particular, the full image, if you will, that there's already a couple of different shades there because of how the stamp was designed. So you could even just stop right there and you'd have two shades on your tree already. But I am going to, oh, here we go. Sorry, noisy. I'm going to put this outline stamp and I'm going to switch to the Old Olive ink. Get my stamp pad open. There we go. And get that all linked up. Actually, I'm going to flip it over and do it this way. Work a little bit better, I think, so I can see what I'm doing. There we go. And I'm going to get this lined up. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can just kind of see through enough to get it mostly lined up. Press down firmly. And there's your tree. And you've now got, if you will, three colors in there because the yellow showed two different shades just from the one stamp, and then I put the green on top. And then the last bit of stamping is we're going to do our sentiment. I'm going to rattle this again, sorry. And I'm going to find my thank you stamp. There we are. And I'm just going to use Memento Black to stamp that one. And get that centered on there. There we are. Get that ink pad out of the way. So now what you would do is die cut all of those using the dies that I showed you earlier. I've already cut those pieces out. So this is what we stamped, and this is what we end up with. Oops. There, that's one that's not smudged. This is what we end up with after we do the die cutting. Set those pieces to the side. So to put these on, get that last remaining piece of Old Olive. This is just using the Stampin' Seal adhesive again. And that's going to go onto the Old Olive. Place that on there. Okay, now we're going to bring our card base back, and I'm just going to kind of set these in place, get them kind of where I want them. Okay, and then this piece of ribbon will tie on approximately there. So I'm just going to set it there for the moment, make sure I've got things kind of how I want them. So this I'm now going to attach with dimensionals. Put a few on there. Okay, and get the backing off of those. And we'll put this up here. Okay, and then the tree. We need to attach the trunk first, obviously, so that we can then put the leaves on top. So again, I'm going to use some dimensionals. I'm just going to put some whole ones up here because this is going to get covered by the leaves. Don't worry if the dimensionals show through here. So I'm just going to put a couple up there, and then I'm actually going to get my scissors, and I'm going to just trim some little pieces of a dimensional to put on the trunk. A little bit fiddly, but worth it to make sure it doesn't show on the, when you do the finished card, you don't want your dimensionals showing through. Oops, stuck my finger. Gonna do one more piece on the trunk. Hang on. Apologies. It wants to stick to my fingers. There we go. Get that last piece a little further down on the trunk. And then this last little bit, I'm just gonna stick on the top there somewhere. And we will take the backing off all our little bits of dimensionals here. Get those off. Oh, last one. There we go. And then I'm going to put this trunk back about there on my card. And then I'm actually going to do dimensionals on this as well. So the trunk's on dimensionals from the card, and then the tree top is also on dimensionals on the trunk. Get the backing off those last three. And then with this, you can bring it down. If you bring it down too low, your trunk kind of shows at the top, your little branches. So it depends on whether or not you want them to show. I'm going to make sure it's up just high enough that those little branches don't show from behind. And there is my tree. And then the last thing I did on the card front was I just slipped my 4-inch piece of ribbon underneath and tied it, which apparently I can't do today. There we go. Just had to adjust the card to a different angle. There, and that's all I did. You can trim these ends if they're a bit too long. You don't really want it that long. And that is the front of the card done. And then we just want to finish off the inside of the card and our envelope nicely. So I'm going to get my envelope back here, open up the card. Of course, you can do this same tree that's on the front on the inside. I chose to do a different tree. Apologies for the rattling again. There we go. Let's get this stamp on my block. And then I did this one in, where are we? Mossy Meadow. Just to have slightly darker green on this. Ink up my stamp. Just put one down in the bottom corner of my card here. Make sure you press down firmly on this because you want to get all the detail and that shading. And then I'm going to do it one more time on my envelope. I like to put something on the envelope just because then the folks that work for the post office get to see something nice. And press down firmly on that. And so here you can really see you've got the two shades just with the one color of ink. I really like how they did that. Okay, and that is our finished card. Just close my ink pad there. And that is our card and our envelope. So thanks for watching. I hope you really enjoy this, and I hope you end up loving the Beauty of the Earth suite as much as I do. I think it's brilliant. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the catalog launch party. Thanks very much. Bye.